Good morning, friends. It's Loree with the blog Homestead.com. Welcome to my garden. I'm here today to give you a little tour, show you all the things that we're growing and show you what's growing well and maybe what's struggling, and maybe show you a few things along the way, a few tips and tricks that might help you in your own garden. So we are a family of 7 that has a homestead in Nebraska, and so we grow in zone 4B. So we have a fairly short growing season compared to some of you, maybe long compared to others. And so we grow all of our own food. And if you were here for the pantry tour video earlier in the year, you know that we have a lot of vegetables and fruits canned. And so I'm going to show you that today. I'm also going to give you a tour of our orchard where we grow some of our own fruit. So yeah, we grow or produce on our land here most all of our own food. And so if that's something you're interested in, if you're wondering if you really think you can grow your own food or not and be independent of the grocery store as much as possible, I'm here to tell you that you can. I do most all the work in the garden here. The kids do help me quite a bit, but I don't have, my husband's busy and I don't have, outside help. I don't hire any help. So if you think, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I'm here to tell you that you can, and I can help you learn how to do that. Also, if you're wondering, do I have to grow a garden that big to produce all of our own food? No, you don't. We take a lot of produce to town and sell it at farmers market every year. So this is a market garden. It's just over a ½ acre in size. And so anyway, come along and I'm going to show you all the different things that are growing. This is the asparagus. This is its second year growing, and some of it is taller than me. So I actually put some T-posts in, and then I put some twine around it to hold it up because we've had some really strong winds lately and it kept blowing over and I didn't want it to break off. So yeah, this is its second year, which means next spring we will be able to start harvesting a lot of asparagus, and we're really excited about it. We love asparagus. It's one of the first vegetables in the spring that we like to eat. As you can see, we like to grow things on landscape fabric. It's what helps me keep up with this over ½ acre garden, mainly by myself. It's not too hard to lay fabric early in the spring when it's cool and there's not as much going on. It's much easier to do that than it is to try to keep up with the weeds when it's 100 degrees in the middle of summer. So anyway, this is spinach, and spinach tends to bolt here in Nebraska as soon as it gets hot. It's supposed to be in the 90s the next couple of days, so I'll be needing to get the rest of this picked here pretty quickly. And here is some tomatoes. So we have about 300 tomato plants. And these were extras. They didn't fit in my normal tomato spot, so I just stuck them down here in this extra bed. And I also have some basil growing in front of them. We sell basil to our local grocery store all summer long. It's a very popular item. So we will be harvesting more of that really soon. And here is just some herbs that I have. So there's parsley and chives and thyme and rosemary and some celery, just some miscellaneous herbs that I have. And right down here is the dill. So we like to have dill for making cucumbers and lots of different things. And I'll be filling the rest of this out with dill. I wanted to do 2 plantings. So all of these little holes here will be for dill. And then here's the rest of the basil. So we love basil. Basil's a superfood. You should eat lots of basil if you can. Of course, we love to make pesto and make pesto pasta and pesto pizza and all the things. So going on down, I'll show you the tomatoes. So I like to grow the tomatoes just with T-posts as their trellis. And then I put twine in between. And I do what's called the Florida weave method of trellising, and I'll be showing you exactly how I do that here on this channel. I want to show you the whole thing from start to finish, and obviously we aren't finished twining, so I don't have that video finished yet. But this is the blueberry patch. Now some of these haven't fared so well. That one needs replaced, but some of them are absolutely beautiful. And we're gonna get a decent crop of blueberries this year. They're so fun to watch grow, and they're so good. Look at all of them. So these blueberry bushes are several years old. They kind of have a hard time growing here. The soil is not naturally what they like, so we've had to, you know, add peat moss and add acidic fertilizer and those kinds of things, but I think they're finally maybe gonna take off. All right, and then right here is the onions, and these need weeded again, but that's just kind of a constant thing. So the garden is never 100% perfect, especially when it's this size and it's me doing most of the work. So I will always be realistic with you and show you how a real garden looks, which has weeds and things that need done in it. Anyway, these need to be weeded. We did get a really nice 1/4 inch of rain last night, and we needed it so bad. So that will make the weeding a whole lot easier. There's over 1,000 onions planted here in this bed. And we will sell a bunch of them again at farmers market, and we use a lot of them in our canning, and then we of course eat them all winter long. So then right here is the peppers. They're a little slow, honestly, because it's been really cool. So they're coming along, but you know, until it gets fairly hot, the peppers aren't gonna do much. So that's all right, that's just how it is. You can't control the weather. These are beets. They love the fact that it's been cool. So yeah, there's 3 rows of beets in this bed. By the way, I mentioned this on a lot of my other videos talking about the garden, but I like to grow everything on 30-inch wide beds if possible. It's just easy to get on both sides of the bed to harvest, and it maximizes the productive use of space in your garden. So you don't have more pathway space than you actually have growing space. So that's what this is a 30-inch wide bed of beets. And some people succession plant beets. You know, they plant beets every couple weeks so they have beets all season. I don't. I just plant them, and there's some out there you can see that are smaller, and those are just still sprouting. They've been in the ground way over a month, probably like 6 weeks they've been in the ground. And so some are still sprouting, and then some of the seeds actually produce more than one beet. And so what happens is you end up with little beets and big beets, and you just harvest the big beets. The little beets keep growing, and I end up with beets all summer long. So that's a super easy thing. And right over here is the carrots, and not all of them germinated very well. I think some of my seed was old. I also think that it wasn't warm enough to germinate them. Now, they like to grow when it's cool, but they like to have it warm enough to at least germinate. And so I just replanted those yesterday. I got them weeded and got them replanted. So that'll be fine. You know, they'll fill out and produce eventually. And then the peas, it'll be a little hard for you to see because of the light. The sun is just coming up. It's a little after 6 in the morning. By the way, this is my absolute favorite time to be in the garden. It's quiet. This is my quiet time. So I can come out, listen to the Bible on my phone, get a cup of tea or coffee. This is a cup of tea from Farmhouse Teas. They have organic homegrown tea blends, and I'll put a link to Farmhouse Teas in the description if you're interested in checking them out. This is Farm Maiden's Medley, which is just warm and comforting and nice on a cool morning like this. So anyway, these are the peas, and they are starting to bloom. The first row is sugar snap peas, which we will eat in salads, and the second row are the shelling peas, which we will shell and put in the freezer and have for winter. And then next to the peas is the garlic. So I love to grow garlic. It looks so good in the spring when nothing else is really growing. We just picked the garlic scapes off of this, and garlic scapes are the flower on the top of the garlic. This is for hardneck garlic. And so we picked those off, and that will allow the plant to put all of its energy down into the bulb and make really nice big bulbs. So there's about 2,000, if I remember right, garlic bulbs here. This goes all the way to the other end. By the way, this garden space is 75 by 130, I think, if I remember right. Anyway, So yeah, so we planted this garlic last fall. It came up this spring, and we just picked the scapes off. If you've never had garlic scapes, you're missing out. They're so good. They're a mild flavored garlic, and you just cut them all up. Well, here's one that needs picked, in fact. Anyway, you just cut them up. You can saute them in butter. You can make pesto out of them. You can pickle them. You can dry them. So many different things that you can do with garlic scapes. Then over here is the strawberry patch, and it's producing bountifully. We've been picking several bowls every day, and we're just sticking those right into the freezer so that we can take them out and make jam, syrup, and put them on top of pancakes and ice cream and just all the things in smoothies. So great to have organic strawberries. You know, strawberries from the store are one of the #1 things that are sprayed very heavily with pesticide and fungicides. So we're very thankful for the strawberries. Then on the other side of the strawberries is the ever-bearing raspberries, and I will try to link the video where I showed how to prune these. We pruned these all the way back to the ground, and as you can see, they're all coming back really nicely. They do need weeded, but this is low on the priority list compared to the other things because the weeds don't really hurt them. They're just not as nice to look at. So anyway, they will grow nice and tall, and then this fall they will produce us raspberries. Then down there on the other side, and I'll go down and show you in a minute, is the summer-bearing raspberries, and those are starting to put on fruit. So as soon as the strawberries are done, the raspberries will start, which is really nice because you can have a consistent supply of fresh fruit. And here are the summer-bearing raspberries. So you can see they are starting to put on fruit. So that's really exciting, and they need a bit of weeding as well. But again, fairly low on the priority list just because the weeds don't really hurt them. They're just not as fun to look at. And here is the flowers. So I grow a few flowers just for cut flowers and to bring pollinators in and just for fun. So the flowers again have kind of been on the back burner. There's always something that kind of falls through the cracks, and for me this spring it's kind of been the flowers. I have some statice growing here, some zinnias, and then I've just filled in with some different smaller varieties. I've got straw flower. Down on the other end I have snapdragons and sunflowers. So that will be really fun. We'll just have a few cut flowers for the table and be able to take a few to market as well. These are the sweet potatoes. They're struggling a bit just because it has been so cool. But there's 2 full rows. These are 80-foot long rows on this end of the garden. 2 full rows of sweet potatoes. And by the way, down there, right there is the orchard. And then on the other side of the orchard, clear out by the field, is what we call the field garden. That's where we grow all of our squash and potatoes. So I'll take you out there before we're done. These are the green beans. So there's 4 rows of green beans here, which is 320 row feet of green beans. So that's plenty. Most of them have come up good. There's a few here that looks like I might need to stick an extra seed or 2 in, but they look like they're growing pretty well. They're very thankful for the rain. We water everything with this drip line, or a couple versions of this drip line right here, and it works really well, right? I mean, it just does, but there's nothing like a rain, especially when you're trying to germinate seeds. It just gets the water really even, and rain is just always better than watering. And coming on over here through the garlic, this is all the brassicas. So cabbage is right over here, cauliflower, and broccoli. Some of them are smaller, and it's because I planted them later so that I don't have all my cabbage ready at one time. Last year we had the most beautiful cabbage. We had lots of rain and it was a cooler summer, and our cabbages averaged about 15 pounds per head, but they were so big nobody really wanted to buy them at farmers market. So I ended up with a lot of cabbage, probably more cabbage than I needed. But we like to make sauerkraut. We like to eat a lot of it fresh in the summertime, and of course we freeze broccoli and cauliflower for winter as well. This is the new thing I'm doing this year. So this is a low-cat tunnel from Neversink Farm, and it has shade cloth over the top of it. And underneath here, I do have some eggplant just because I didn't really have any place else to put it. Anyway, there's eggplant, cilantro, there's spinach, and then down at the other end, which I'll show you in a few minutes, is the Salanova lettuce. And I'm gonna be filling up this whole bed with lettuce. So every week or two, I'm putting a couple flats of lettuce in, and then we're hoping to have lots of good lettuce this summer. I also have these neat little sprinklers, little micro sprinklers, and I can link something similar to that. And what they do is they will be on a timer, and they will turn on the lettuce about 3 or 4 times a day, and that will keep the lettuce from getting bitter, that and being underneath the shade cloth. All right, and here we have the cucumbers. I had kind of a hard time getting some of them to germinate. Some of these I transplanted and some of them I direct seeded. Anyway, we just have them so they can grow up along a trellis. This is just a slanted hog panel, and then there's just some fencing I used down there. So they're coming along well. There's a couple here I see I need to replant, pull a weed or two. But yeah, they're growing well, and as it gets warmer this week, the cucumbers will be really happy. They'll grow up this, and it'll be fairly easy to harvest because they'll be up on the trellis. And then back to the tomatoes. They're just looking really good. I need to get another set of twine on them. So I twine them up about once a week in the month of June, and then that's usually enough. They're usually tall enough by then that we just start harvesting then in July. Tomatoes is a big crop for us. A lot of people buy canning tomatoes and eating tomatoes from us, and then of course we have like 9 things in our pantry that come strictly from tomatoes, so we can a lot of tomatoes. All right, let's hop down and check out the orchard and see what's growing there. All right, this is the orchard. We planted these trees about 8 years ago. Things can be a little slow to grow here in Nebraska, just depending on the year. So how much moisture we get changes, of course, how things grow, especially with things like trees. So we also have drip line on this entire set of trees. There's 24 fruit trees here. Right here is our elderberry bushes. So those are growing really well, and I'll try to show you the starts that I took off of these this spring early. I trimmed them, and in the pruning, the raspberry and elderberry and blueberry pruning video, I took some starts, and they're growing nicely. I need to get them potted up because I have one more spot here that I want to put an elderberry. So I'm going to take you around and show you all the fruit trees, and there is some fruit growing too. All right, so along the edge we have grapes growing on both sides, and I will try to remember to link my grape pruning video here. I see a couple of them need tied up to the trellis a little better because the wind yesterday was really strong, and sometimes it can push the grapes once they get all of their leaves. It can kind of push them down the trellis a bit, so I'll have to do that. This is an apple tree, and I see some apples growing right there. So again, I think it's the 11th of June today, so we were blessed not to have a late frost, and so everything is looking good as far as some fruit. We had a really wet year last year. Everything produced so much fruit. I wasn't really sure we'd get a lot of fruit this year just because I felt like the plants and the trees were probably kind of tired, but they are setting on fruit. So that's exciting. We make all of our own applesauce and apple pie filling, and of course we like to have a lot for fresh eating, so happy to have apples. I think there's 6 apple trees, if I remember right. So these first 6 are apple trees. There's the grapes on the other side. We have 4 different kinds of grapes. Aren't they pretty? Wow, there's a lot of them up there. So you have to keep an eye on your fruit trees, and then sometimes you have to put like a 2x4 underneath the branch to support the fruit. This guy was leaning really hard. See how he was growing funny? So we just put in a T-post and we kind of have him pulled back straight. So hopefully he will decide to grow straight. Everything's really happy since the rain last night. I guess maybe we have 8 apple trees because these 2 are apples as well. Different kinds of apples. We have yellow apples. Oh no, is this an apple or a pear? No, I think it's an apple. I'd have to get my map out. It's really important when you plant things to keep track of what you plant and where. I did not do a good job of that in my field garden this year, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. There's always something that falls through the cracks. It's all good. This is a peach tree that was planted, I think, 2 years ago. Anyway, we've got him staked to help with the wind. So that's a good thing. And there's a grape I see that needs trellised up a little better, or clipped up, I guess. These are pear trees. So there's one over there. So pear trees have to have different kinds to pollinate each other. And so these are, I think, 2 different kinds at least. The one in the middle is more of just a pollinator. It does produce some fruit, but as you can see, they always tend to grow really straight up and down. We keep pruning him back, and sometimes you can hang weights on the branches and make them grow outward a little bit more, but that's just how they like to grow. So sometimes you just have to be okay with it to some degree. Anyway, he's more of a pollinator, but the side ones do have fruit on. Let's go look and see. That's another peach tree right there that we just planted, I think, a couple years ago, same time as the other one. All right, where's all the little pears? There they are. See them? There's all kinds of little pears. We like to can pears and then, of course, eat fresh pears. That's so good. Make pear sauce and pear butter. We like to make apple butter too. Apple jelly, so many things. Apple cider vinegar. Like, we try not to let anything go to waste. All right, and then here we had a couple of trees that eventually died. You know, not everything lives forever, sadly. And the peach trees got some kind of a fungus, or like a canker fungus. And I'm not sure, I know it can be because of copper deficiency. We've been amending our soil, but sometimes it just takes time. So this tree here and then this one right over there is ones that we just planted. So those are brand new. And yeah, hopefully they will grow well. And these are cherry trees, and I've had decent harvests, but not enough to can. So I really want to be able to can cherry pie filling. So we're gonna see if maybe this year will be the year that we get enough to can cherry pie filling. And if we do that, then I'll be able to show you. We don't live in an area here where we can go purchase a lot of fruit. You know, you can obviously order it in, right? Azure Standard has fruit that you can purchase, but we don't have a lot of fruit orchards where we can go pick, so we have to raise our own. And depending on the weather, sometimes that's easy and sometimes it's hard. But if you're consistent about your growing every year, you'll have good years and bad years, and it all comes out in the wash if you do your preserving right. So that is a plum tree right down there, and he doesn't look too good. So I think we're probably gonna have to replace him. And then the apricots. So I have 2 apricots right now that are really struggling. They look like they're dying, and I don't know why. Not been able to figure out why. I don't know if they're also getting a fungus of some kind. I'm not sure. So that one in the middle looks good, but the 2 on the ends don't look good. They've hardly ever bloomed in the 8 years. I think they've only bloomed once, and they've never put on any fruit. So honestly, we're a little bit ready to pull them out and put in peach trees because we really would rather have the peaches. I mean, I love apricots, but if they're not going to produce, then forget it. This is also a cherry tree. So, all right, and then right out there past the burn pile is the field garden. So I'll take you down there quick and show you what's growing. Oh, by the way, down here are the blackberries. I should show you those. Okay, blackberries I think are zoned for zone 5. We are zone 4B. And so I have a hard time with blackberries because what happens is, and here's a good example, they need trellised up. Again, this is low priority stuff, but I'm showing you all the things. So what happens is they grow up, this is last year's canes, and they should be putting on leaves and growing their fruit on these canes. But what happens is in the winter, the canes die. So see, I trimmed this back and the cane is dead, if it will focus. Okay, it's not green in the middle anymore. So they aren't winter hardy enough for here. This is the triple crown thornless. I did throw a tarp over them last year. See here, you can see they're growing up again. They always grow up, but they don't produce fruit much because they don't come back the second year to produce fruit. There is a couple canes down here that are, see, they all need pruned and trellised because I was waiting to see what was alive and what wasn't alive. There's a couple canes down here that do have leaves on them and they will produce fruit, but most of these will not, and it's just really a bummer. See, here's one that will, but most of them didn't survive. So I don't know, if they just need to get better established like this one, and then maybe they will produce more fruit, or if I need to do something different to protect them in the winter, maybe put some horse manure around them and some tires or something. I don't know. It's hard to know, like, how much is it worth it, right? But I would love to have some blackberry jam and blackberry syrup and just eat some fresh blackberries. So anyway, that's the blackberry patch that's kind of struggling. All right, this is the squash and the potato patch. So I have found that squash and potatoes aren't usually harmed by deer, so I can put them out here and the deer don't seem to bother them that much. So that's a good thing. Of course, the fruit trees and all the other plants, need to be inside the garden fence. So I will try to link the video where we planted these potatoes. That we have hilled them up once. So hilling them up just means getting all the dirt along the edges and piling them up around the plants. It makes them produce more potatoes. And I'm going to try to hill them up again. The rain will help a lot. The dirt was really hard on the sides, so I was having a hard time, getting enough dirt to throw up around the plants. But I will be hilling them up again, and we've been just going through once a day and picking off any potato bugs, the little potato beetles that we see. Usually if you pick them off and keep up with it, then you don't have to spend any time, putting diatomaceous earth or anything on the potatoes to take care of the potato bugs. So that's a good thing. If you can keep up with picking them once a day, it doesn't take too long, maybe 10 minutes or less. We just pick them off, and then the potatoes have a chance to grow. We should be able to start harvesting some potatoes for fresh eating. You can just dig down and grab some off the sides of the plants about the first part of July. So we're out of potatoes right now, but that's fine. There's plenty of other things for us to eat in our pantry, and in about the 1st of July we'll be able to start stealing a few potatoes for fresh eating, and that'll be so good. Fresh potatoes are so yummy. And then over here is all of this squash, and some of it came up really well and some of it didn't. So some of my seed is old. I have a hard time getting rid of old seed because usually, if it grew last year, won't it grow this year? That's always how I think. I'm the eternal optimist. Anyway, so you can see some of it came up good. Some of it then I had to go back and replant, and that's where I kind of messed up. So I make a list in my phone of, where I plant the pumpkins and the cantaloupe and the watermelon and all the things, right? The zucchini and then all the winter squash. And I did that, but I wasn't really specific, like which end of the row was the butternut versus the acorn. So then when they didn't come up, I had to try to remember, okay, what did I plant where? So it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not a big deal. I just went back and took seeds and stuck in, and I'm waiting for the rest of them to germinate. So these are pumpkin, if I remember right. We like to have pumpkin in the winter, pumpkin and squash. And I put about 2 feet between each plant because, these are vine crops. This will eventually end up being just a big jungle. Wait till you see later on in the year. And then, of course, these are ones that haven't come up. They've got grass in them from being, from the mower. We mowed along here, and we're actually going to be cutting this alfalfa today, Lord willing. So it's time for it to be harvested. And it rained last night, so now once it dries out, hopefully we can get it knocked down, and I'll try to show you that too. It's kind of fun. We put up hay kind of the old-fashioned way, so kind of fun to see. We'd like to do it all with our team of horses, but our team of mares just had, both of them had baby colts, so we don't really want to work them too hard right now, so we'll use the tractor for now. And there's a few weeds, see right here, that I need to pull. So to keep the weeds, the reason these are planted so far apart is so that I can plow them out with the tractor and I don't have to dig them. And to keep up with the weeds, what I do is I usually flame weed. So I just take my propane torch and go down the middle, and I need to do that again. But if I had done that right before it rained, it wouldn't have done much. So once it dries out, like tomorrow is supposed to be 90, I'll probably come along here with the flame torch and in between the rows. And then of course, as you hill the potatoes, that kind of takes care of the weeds in the potatoes. So it all works out, but something you got to kind of keep up with. So here's some cantaloupe that's coming along. Here's some stuff that's coming up, and some of this, oh, here's one that's just starting. See that? It's just poking through. And then those are coming along. So I just have to be patient for the rest of this to come. And I'd water this all with drip line as well, drip tape. I didn't put it under the fabric, so it kind of tends to blow around, but once the plants are up and established, you know, it will be fine. So there's a bunch of stuff coming up. Yay! I think that's more cantaloupe. And I think this is more little pumpkins, like little sugar pie pumpkins for making pumpkin pies. And then we grow butternut squash, spaghetti squash, acorn squash, all the squashes. We really enjoy squash, so it's really nice because I can water it right down here. You know, there's a tank and a hydrant, and so anyway, yeah, you can see the weeds here are starting to get away from me, so I've got to get the flame torch out. But the potatoes are just looking amazing. There's a potato bug I see that I need to get. We planted Yukon Gold and red potatoes. So it's just amazing to me when you hill them how fast they grow. Like overnight, they almost double in size. It's just incredible. They really like it when you hill them up. And that's a wrap on the garden tour. I'll show you some of the haying later today. And I'll be showing you another garden tour later on, showing you how we harvest the garlic and probably some of the potatoes and start harvesting tomatoes and all the things. But we sure feel blessed to be able to live in the country and grow our own food. And if that's something that you're interested in, something that you want to do as well, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and follow along. I'll be showing you how we do this on a large scale and how you can do it as well. So that's a wrap for now. We'll see you in the next video. Well, it's an absolutely beautiful day. It finally dried out enough for us to mow the hay. So this is a grass alfalfa mix that we will feed to our Jersey cows that give us milk and cheese and butter and ice cream and all the things. We also sometimes feed some of our calves with it. Here comes hubby on the mow tractor.
Cannot come this way.
Yep. You watch.
Yes, Then come towards us. Come towards me.
how we mow it. We'll just go around and around until it's all cut down. Then it will lay flat. It's really pretty stuff. It's got clover in it. The cows are gonna love it. So it'll lay flat and dry, and then we will rake it together, square bale it, and put it in the barn for winter.